Okay, let's take a look at mock-ups, which are the term for a picture of the web page that you're going to build before you build it. So you can make a mock-up of what a web page is going to look like, show it to the client, get the approval, work out all your design issues before you start tearing it apart and writing code for it. Much cheaper that way. So let's start at the beginning here. So of course, any good designer is going to start thumbnailing, correct? Of course. So here I thumbnailed out kind of a rough idea of how I want to arrange this thing. And I sort of said, well, I need a title, graphic, introduction, objective. I want some goals. I want some experience. I want some education and some contact info. So that's how I decided to arrange this. So that gives me a kind of a roadmap to follow when I build a mock-up. I decided to do this in our old friend Illustrator. Why? Well, because I felt like it. It seemed like a good tool to use to build this part of the process. People use Photoshop, they use Illustrator, they use Fireworks, they use the GIMP, they use, some people even use InDesign. A variety of tools will create you an image that you can translate into a web page. So we have to take a look at this strategically, and what I did with this thing is I started with, turn these guys on. This is from the 960GS system. Let's go back here to the web and we'll say, okay, here's the 960GS grid system that is famous for creating grids of all sorts that you can use for building web pages. And they have very nice, the big old download button. You can download a set of templates for, well, here they have it listed. Acorn, Fireworks, Flash, InDesign, GIMP, Inkscape, Illustrator, yada, yada, yada. Here, they have a template for just about everybody. I use the Illustrator template. Further down the line, we're going to build ourselves a adaptive or responsive website, and we're going to use this thing called the Skeleton Boilerplate, which is a whole bunch of styles already written for us that allow us to take a page and divide it into different sizes of areas built on 16 columns of grid. So it's talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns in the 16 column grid system. The heading stuff, it's got typography built into the skeleton, it's got some button formatting, it's got form formatting, it has a bunch of media queries and for making things different sizes, mobile, tablet, all these different things, and tells you how it's supported. It's pretty good for most of the modern browsers, and down here you can download the whole thing. You can also download the PSD template, which is one of the set of the 960GS templates. So, being the rebellious sort that I am, I decided to use Illustrator to do this. And here's the 960GS template that I started with. I'll turn off the guides. You have guides to snap to. You have a visible column grid that you can build things over, and then I put all of my parts down here, building them onto the grid. And I used a little indent here. I decided I would move everything over one column from the edge on my contents. I just thought that would give me a little relief, a little white space here to draw the interest into the center. And I let the header and the footer go out to the full 16 columns of 960 width. So that's what I did. Now we won't really go into all of the details of how this is built, but it's just a typical Illustrator document. Got all these different parts, and type with an outline on it, I duplicated the type and slid it down to make a nice hard drop shadow that I could play with, and put a photo underneath it. Made some boxes with some type over them to simulate the buttons. I typed out the content here, and this is actually the words I'm going to use. So what I will do is I will gather these words when I need them as text, and these are some small pictures that I put in as the headers for these columns of information. You might notice the picture lights up bigger than the box it's in. That's because with dissimilar sized pictures, sometimes you need to do a little bit of clipping to bring them down to the same consistent size. So I have 3 rectangles here that define these 3 equally sized boxes, and each one of those is a clipping mask for the picture that's slightly bigger. So that is that's kind of the basic layout of what I'm doing with the grids and the pictures and all of this. Now, to do a mock-up, you don't want to just make a great big picture and then chop it up into pieces and stick it right into a website, which is what they used to do in the old table-based days. What would be better is if we put on our grids here, and you're going to use the slice tool, which is found down here. So you have a slice tool and a selector tool after you've made a slice. So if you need to adjust anything, you can use that tool. But to make this tool, make the slice, you get this little X-Acto knife icon, and you have to think strategically about how you're going to build your page. I'm going to make one big header image, so I'm going to grab a picture of this. I'm going to make 3 small web optimized graphics for these. All this other stuff, I look at that and say, I can do that with my CSS. I can use the Skeleton Boilerplate to format all of this text and make it go where I want it to go. I can make these columns of information with the boilerplate. This can be a division, this box here for the footer, and also the unordered list that I'll style into a horizontal menu can all be done with CSS rather than graphics. So I want to keep it as simple and low weight as possible when it's translating. So I really only need to grab these parts here with slices, the graphic parts. So I'm going to draw myself out a slice. It should be snapping to the guides, and so you'll see there's a series of slices with this one in the middle, and I can zoom in a little bit and kind of check on my accuracy here. Get to the selector tool, click on the slice. Oh, come on. Okay, there. Grab the boundary. I can move this around anywhere I want, as long as it's not sticking to the wrong pixel. Okay, so put that back in place. So it's pretty much fitting where it needs to go. That's slice number 2. So it will, by default, it will label your slices. Back to the slice making tool, slice tool. So I can put my cursor up here, try to catch the edges of this. There we have a slice for that. Now I can try to find the center, the corner there. The little automatic labels kind of get in my way. If I want to, I can even start at a different corner where the view is cleaner. And what I want to do is be careful enough that I don't create things that go up and down, which I have here. So slice select tool, you'll see that this one ends right here and this one ends a couple pixels above. So I'll see if I can get that pulled down. Okay, so now my 3 slices look pretty consistent. Now if If this thing really gives you trouble, and sometimes it will, sometimes you get little pieces of slices that you never intended to create, and what you want to do is check the numerical progression here. You have slice 5, slice 6, slice 7, slice 8, slice 9, slice 10. If you see this go 5, 6, 8, 10, what is happening is you get little 1-pixel slices and things that slips of the tool, and if you zoom into 1,000,000%, you'll see those little tiny slices. So it can get kind of nerve-wracking sometimes building these slices. If you run into a situation like that, the best thing to do is create regular old column guide or regular old Illustrator guides, drag them down over the place where the slices should happen, and then you have a option here to create from guides, which can really save your mental state sometimes. Luckily, we're in pretty good shape here. So I've got slices 6, 8, 10, and 2 that I'm going to make into real web graphics. How do I do that? I go to the Save for Web and Devices. Right now I've got a picture of my original, and I've got a picture of, in the 2-up view here. There's optimized, original, the 2-up. Why do I want to look at the both at two sides here? Just kind of check my quality. So I'll zoom in here with the old zoomer tool. And on this side, this is the original graphic. Here is the gear selector. It may start out with a GIF. And of course, we all know that GIFs are not the best thing for photography. The photographic image starts getting pretty bad if you don't have enough colors. So GIF or Ping 24 would be a better choice. Ping 24 will be larger probably. So here's a JPEG. You select your color, your quality, low quality, small file size. But you can see a bunch of junk here in especially the white. Bring your quality up a bit. Just above 50, most of that cleans out. It went from, 20-something to 76. So the image gets quite a bit bigger. The size of the image. You get up into the almost 80%, and so you're getting up to 130. So you keep an eye on that pixel, not the pixel, the kilobytes of this, 51. You look at that and go, well, it's kind of messy here in the whites. The picture itself is pretty good because it's a big pile of slash and it doesn't have a lot of flat details in it. So you kind of creep up here until you go, it's just the header graphic. I want it to look pretty sharp. So maybe I can live with like a 60 quality here for 80, almost 85K. So that is my setup for the header graphic. So if I go back here to the zoomer and we zoom down, take a look at our whole page. So we've got this one selected. You can select these other, actually go to the slice select tool. You can select these other ones here, which will all have their own reading too. This one is set at 60. This one happens to be defaulting to 71. I might say that's less critical. Maybe I take it down to, 53, for example. And I say, well, that would be enough for that. If I think all of these pictures can take that same setting, I can shift select on the other ones. So they're all darkened up here. Now you can see the quality number went away because it's got several different settings there, so it can't choose it. Okay, 48, smaller file size. So now we're all ready to go. It's going to export, well, it would export all of these here, but we'll say we want to take note of these 4 image graphics here. So we do save, or actually we want to do, before we do that, click on this and we can give this any name we want. So it's going to put all of these into an image folder. It tends to create its own image folder. You can go into preferences and tell it, no, don't use your own image folder, put it in my image folder. Typically I forget to do that and it makes a new image folder. I take my parts out of that, put them where I want them, get rid of the fresh image folder, and you know, controlled chaos is good. So we've just told this one to name that. Instead of slice 02, it's going to be called header image. This will be something clever like I'm going to call it box 1. Now if I was building a full web page out of this Save for Web, I could put in the URLs, the alternate text, all sorts of things there. I'm just getting the images. So here we go here. Box 2 would be pretty descriptive for me. And then instead of user 10, go to box 3. And there we're ready to go. It's going to save those. And it will save as. It's going into my working files. It's going to be not HTML and images, but just images only. And we'll click Save. And it just saved my 4 graphics. If I go here to my, let's see, figure out where I put this. So I have a place where I keep my working files, and there are my images I've been working with, and here is box 1, 2, and 3, and the header image recently done. And that's the story of using your slice tool, the underpinnings of building a mockup, choosing which parts you build out of graphics and which parts you're going to save for the magic of CSS. And that is that's my story here. I'm sticking to it.